What we're going to be talking about today is obviously how to land your first or your next $10,000 plus client as a software engineer. And in front of you right now, what you are seeing is a $10,000 contract that was signed, well, I should say that was presented by somebody to a client who started with absolutely nothing. They were a developer just like yourself with absolutely no business experience, no sales experience, nothing. I have redacted some of the information from the contract, but this is the exact contract that was sent out and received back with a signature as well as the payment in full. Now, what is the reason for this contract displaying right in front of you? Why are we starting off with this? It's to showcase that everything we will be discussing in this exact workshop right now will allow you to do exactly this for yourself. Notice how I use a $10,000 contract. I didn't bring in a $50,000 one. I didn't bring in a $100,000 one. That's for a very specific reason. And it's not to say that you guys can't do those ones. You most definitely can. The reason I chose 10,000 is to showcase that even if we're starting small, it is still very much possible for you with absolutely no experience in business to still make more with one contract than some of you will be making in a month at your 9 to 5. Okay? Very simple to do. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Okay? So we're going to cover how to go from pretty much zero where you are right now to having a contract such as that signed and returned to you with the invoice. And we're going to talk about the business side of things. We're going to talk about the sales side of things in terms of how to close, all those things. So pretty much everything you need for that very first or your next client. And before we get there, I want you all to reply in chat with either a yes or whatever word you want to use. You can use C if some of you are Spanish speaking. But basically, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Question number one is, who here believes they are a strong software engineer who still cannot turn it into real proper income? Or another way you can think of this question is, who here thinks they are undervalued? Undervalued meaning you think you are able or you should be able to make more money than you are currently making with your current set of skills. Drop a yes in the chat, and keep in mind, chat is about 10 to 15 seconds behind. I'm seeing a lot of yeses. Sonu, yes. Adam, yes. Oh, capital yeses. Okay. Nick, yes, the strongest. Well, Nick, the strongest engineer, not physically. I meant more so with your skills, but yes, that counts as well. Okay, a lot of yeses, a lot of capital yeses. Alex, way undervalued. Okay, perfect. So we got the good gist of it. Question number two. Who here freezes when somebody asks, how much do you charge? Or what is the price for this? Or something along those lines. When somebody asks you to list a price, or when somebody asks you to say how much it is you're going to charge for something. How many of you freeze? Now, what does freezing entail? I don't mean you instantly just turn into an icicle, right? I mean more so, who here has difficulty with giving an answer immediately? Who here kind of has to think about it, kind of trips up, starts self-doubting. Okay, how much do I say? Is it going to think it's too much, too little? A big damn yes. Perfect. Yep, pricing is hard. Michael, Sonu, yes, freeze. Raul, 100%. Adam says yes, freeze all the time. Okay, perfect. So you guys are seeing the pattern here, okay? One step at a time. Now, question number three. Who here has sent a proposal that got ghosted? Now, what does ghosted mean? Either you did not receive a response to the proposal, or you received the response way too late, or you sent out an invoice that never got paid. Any type of this sort of situation, how many of you have experienced it firsthand? Once again, oh, too many times. There we go. Too many times. Yes, absolutely. Yes, I love the capital yeses, folks. It's sort of like you're yelling yes. A two day ago thing, Abdul, okay. Very recently, yes. Way too many to count. You're bad at proposal. Haven't yet. More times than I can remember. Okay, once again, pretty familiar feeling that all of us have had with this. Some of you said no experience with this yet. Well, for the better or worse, right? Haven't sent one, probably out of fear of getting ghosted. Okay, Jordan, very good point too. But pretty much same exact thing. Now, who here, and I'm expecting every single person to say yes to this one, has built something that went absolutely nowhere? This could be a personal project of yours. This could be a SaaS that you decided to do. This could be an idea that you had that you decided to act on. but you built something from scratch, believing that it's going to go somewhere, and it went absolutely nowhere. Now, what do I mean when I say nowhere? I mean specifically a big fat zero in profit. You could have had some revenue, but it wasn't profitable. Who here has built something that went absolutely nowhere? I feel like doing public service, Don, okay? Definitely me, yes. Okay, so once again, of course, yeah, everybody's relatively familiar with these kind of questions because everybody's gone through it, right? Every question is a yes for me. Don't worry about it, folks. There's a reason why these questions are being brought up. So many great projects, all vaporware. Yep, Don, that happens as well. Not nowhere, but nothing worth to mention below $100 a month. Okay, Jason, that's still relatively good. You at least saw a little bit of results. Perfect. So the entire point of these questions is to showcase that you are not necessarily stuck right now because you are a bad engineer or you suck technically or all these things. You are simply stuck because you are playing the same exact game as everybody else. Do you think it's a coincidence that most of you answered yes to every single question the same exact way? Why is that? Ask yourself. Well, it's because most software engineers are running the same exact loop. So what ends up happening? You get an idea. So what you do is obviously you want to execute. So you start building on that idea in isolation for months. After it's done, you get very minimal traffic, sometimes even zero, and absolutely no paying customers. So you decide that it failed because of a lack of features. So you go back to building, you add more features for a few more months, let's say 2 more months, and then you launch it again, but still you have very little traffic, no paying customers. You realize nobody wants it, and then you go back to another idea, and the same exact loop begins and begins. Now, some engineers run this loop once, some twice, some 3 times, some 4 times. The really persistent ones tried 5 times. But the point here is, no matter how persistent you are, if you run this loop, no matter how many times you go, the chances of you succeeding with this loop are going to be extremely low because the problem is in the loop itself. Okay, so here's what we're going to cover today to fix pretty much all of this. We're going to go through 10 very particular sessions. Okay, we're going to start off from the myths that software engineers believe in, all the way to everything you need to actually get that final signed contract. Now, some ground rules before we actually dive straight into it. I want you all to take notes. You need to stay until the end to ask questions because we will have a Q&A section. And remember, everything that you hear me say is good information, but it means nothing if you do not take action. So the best thing you can do for yourself is actually take action on the things that you will be learning about today. Okay? Now, should you be here? Well, you are in the right room. If you are a software engineer, first and foremost, you want your first or next $10,000 plus client. Sales calls feel awkward to you, or the sales process in general is a little awkward to you. You know you undercharge or you want to charge higher. You want to get higher ticket clients, and you're actually willing to talk to people. If you hit all of these, you belong here. Now, if you want to put in absolutely no effort, if you want to sell without having to talk to anybody, and if you're waiting for some magic framework or a magic sentence that you can say to instantly get your first client, this is not for you, and you should leave this webinar right now. I'm assuming those of you that are still here are here because this is for you. So let me first talk a little bit about myself so you understand who am I and why am I speaking on these things. So a lot of you, I actually been in pretty much tech for as long as I can remember. Started off in robotics. You can see me right there, right behind the flag. Haven't changed much, I know. From then on, I pursued higher education at UCSD, electrical and computer engineering, got my first job as a software engineering consultant, making low 6 figures. In 3 years, got promoted all the way to a software engineering manager, taking home $250,000 a year. November 30th, 2022, which happens to be my actual birthday. November 30th, by the way, not 2022, I was important then. ChatGPT releases, so I pretty much make the plan that I'm gonna quit and start an AI consultancy in LA. And that's exactly what I do. From then on, pretty much we are here with Code to CEO, my startup accelerator. And in this current day, I'm doing this exact thing right now. So that's a little bit about me. So you understand I've pretty much gone through the highs and the lows of both the employment side of things as well as the employee side of things. And we have scaled our agency close to 10 figures. We will hit it at the end of this year. And everything I'm going to be talking about has been proven. not only by me, because I know you can point at me and say, okay, but maybe you had some specific circumstances. And I get that. And you should think like that, because maybe that is the case. I got lucky. However, who didn't get lucky was Chris, who used the same exact thing that I'm going to be talking about here to close his first ever sales call. It was literally just jumped on a first call, sold it, $1,500 upfront, $200 a month retainer. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it played a very important role in his limiting beliefs and what he can do. From then on, he went to over $20,000 a month in pipeline. Masa, very similar thing, or a software engineer from Japan inside our startup accelerator, Code to CEO. English wasn't even his first language, but it did not matter. Closed a $10,000 project on a monthly retainer. Now he's doing consistent 20K months located in Japan. Tamir, and his quote word for word, I'm an engineer, not a salesman. Turns out that was the pitch. Closed over a $50,000 engagement, now on to doing bigger and better things. You'll hear an update from him actually on the main channel in a couple weeks. Dham, one of our actually OG founders from over 2 years ago, but he's seen a lot of success on a very consistent level. But the one example I want to bring up from him is using the same exact method. He actually closed somebody on a flight back to Sydney, from Dallas to Sydney. He literally closed somebody. And that deal went on to get him even more deals through referrals, right? Paul made more money in January and February of 2026 with this same exact framework that we're going to learn, this exact model, than the previous 9-to-5 calendar year for 2025. So imagine that. Now he's consistently doing over $50,000 a month in revenue. Sandra, software engineer, once again, from Boston, okay? MIT graduate, was overemployed working 2 jobs, now running a business over $20,000 in monthly recurring revenue. Ian, the person that you saw in the very beginning, the $10,000 plus contract, that was his exact thing. So sold a project immediately for $10,000, got the check, went on to deliver it. Tofik from Bangalore, India, one of the places where a lot of people say it's impossible to get clients or high ticket work, closed a $1,000 website with his first offer for India, which is still a decent amount of money. And then from then on went on to $5,000 and $10,000 clients currently in the pipeline, okay? Scott got first check, about $14,500 project fee, went on to sign 5 more clients since then, clearing over $25,000 a month now. Benoit, $32,500 project, and I can go on and on and on, right? Joey, another one, first time, met somebody with this exact framework, ended up closing a deal, now on to the next one. John, over $90,000 in revenue, and got a $4.5 million acquisition offer. You get the point. I can go on about these forever and forever, but the main point is, everything we're going to be talking about here has been proven to work, and I'm not the only one that was able to do it. Every single Code to CEO founder managed to do this as well. So let's talk about the myths, the lies, I should say, that keep good software engineers unpaid. Starting with the most dangerous one. Oh, for a business, I need a website, a logo, or an LLC. First things first. I need to make sure everything is good. This is not true. In fact, this is the furthest thing from the truth. Client 1 is going to come from one thing and one thing only, a conversation. Okay, 54% of buyers talk to a real user before they buy. Websites do not even make it at the top of their list. Meaning, if you want to sell something to somebody, the biggest differentiator, proponent to that specific decision of somebody deciding to buy from you is not going to be your website, your logo, nor your LLC. In fact, these things will only hinder you because they will prevent you from having that conversation, or at least they will delay you from having that conversation. This is one of the first myths. You do not need a website, a logo, or an LLC. Honestly, I would recommend until you are consistently getting clients on a month-to-month basis. Then you can set up your LLC. Number 2, oh, I'm not senior enough to charge for this, or imposter syndrome. I don't have the technical skills to back this up. I don't think I can deliver. Does not matter. Clients buy outcomes, not resumes. Some of you here right now will probably have over 10, 20 years of software engineering experience. Guess what? Somebody with 5 years or with 1 year will still potentially be able to make more money than you if they are able to get the outcome that the business desires. Resume here does not matter. It's only about outcomes. Can you get these people the result that they want? Remember, a business owner is not going to take a look at your GitHub contribution rate. They're not going to look at your repositories. All they care about is, can you get me a result like you said you could? Okay. Myth number 3. Oh, but if I build a really good product, people are going to find it because good things get recognized. globally. This is one of the, what they call it, copes of this software engineering world. No, 42% of failed startups built something that nobody needed. No matter how good it was from a technical perspective, if nobody needed it, nobody's going to buy it. This is why you need to pitch first and then build after the fact. If you remember, the complete opposite of the loop that we talked about. Myth number 4. Oh, the cheapest bid is always going to win. So why would anybody come to me? Why would anybody buy from me? Or why would anybody trust me when they can go on Upwork or Fiverr and hire a developer for far cheaper? That is not how things work. Trust outranks price any day of the week, okay? Buyers rank feeling safe signing the contract above price, innovation, and features. Meaning, the number one thing that will determine the price that you can charge somebody is going to be how much they trust you and your ability to deliver. Does that make sense? Myth number 5. Oh, as long as I just send more cold emails, I'm going to get more clients. If I do more cold outreach, I'm definitely going to get more clients. Yes and no, this is a very big myth. One warm introduction is going to beat 1,000 cold emails that you're going to send out, because strangers delete your emails and people who know you will actually answer the same emails that you send. We'll talk a little bit more about this in session 4 when we get there, but understand that you should never, ever start with cold emails, especially if you do not even have a proper understanding of what your offer is. This is also one of the biggest myths and also mistakes that most software engineers make whenever they get into the entrepreneurship world. They start with cold emails, nothing ends up working, they get distraught and they say entrepreneurship doesn't work and they move on. Myth number 6, once again, good work sells itself. No, it does not. Nobody will refer you, no matter how good you are, until you ask. Very rarely does that happen. So 91% of customers are actually willing to give you a referral, but only 11% of people ever ask them to refer. Referrals cost nothing, yet most people never ask. And of course, 3 more myths, just rapid fire, so we don't spend too long on this. You need more certifications. A lot of you have even sent me an email. Should I get this AI certification or should I get this specific certification? No business owner is ever going to care about a certification. And personally speaking, nobody has ever asked me for one. Myth number 8, Upwork is the fastest lane to your first client. No, it is not. It is a race to your cheapest bid, actually. And myth number 9, it has to be perfect first. Not at all. Imperfect and in front of a client is going to beat perfect on your laptop any day of the week. Okay? And of course, last but not least, everybody is an AI developer now. It is too saturated. Or everybody is doing this software thing. It is too saturated. Maybe online, you can say that. I shouldn't even put a yes here. I should have put a maybe. Online, maybe, but not the case. But in your city, it is completely empty. So hold that thought because we're going to talk about this in the next session. So a little bit of a recap of what we just discussed. Conversations before websites, LLCs, and logos. Outcome is going to beat your resume any day of the week, okay? You don't need certifications or any of these things. It's all about the result you can get people. Trust is going to outrank price any day of the week. What's going to determine your pricing is going to be how much somebody trusts you. And saturation is an online problem. I should even say saturation doesn't really exist, but that's a little bit of a more advanced concept. We can leave that for the Q&A later if you guys want to hear more about it. Now, to showcase a little example of this, for every single session, we're going to have a real-world example of essentially proving everything we just talked about. For this specific thing, it's going to be Ivan, once again, one of our founders from Inside Code to CEO. He got his first small win, first small project, a small HRT well-being app, 3,500 euros, where his ad is actually a very decent amount of money. But once again, customer is an old friend of mine who vibe coded but realized he cannot achieve a production version. He went in to actually go out and do it. So what happened here? He did not build first, he pitched first, he sold it, and then he built it. And none of the myths it did not follow. He did the exact opposite of everything we just talked about. Okay? So let's talk about what this model actually is. So what is this position that we're trying to go after? Well, first and foremost, we need to understand, and I'm going to keep repeating this, a better product will not save you. Do not think that your technical skills, your technical prowess will be able to pretty much make up for the lack of communication or sales or marketing skills. They will never be able to do that, okay? No matter how good your product is, a better position will always top it. So let's talk about the specific better position, right? First and foremost, a lot of us need to stop fighting all the developers on the internet. Pretty much on the internet, everybody's there. Everybody's getting the same exact sources of information. Keep in mind, when I asked the 4 questions, most of you answered the same exact way. Why is that the case? Do you think that is really a coincidence? No, it's because most of you got your information from the same sources, right? Most of you did the same exact things as everybody else on the internet. So you want to be somewhere where the competition is at least non-existent, or in other cases, as low as possible, or strictly zero. And that is called the local celebrity model. If you have any thoughts on the name, I'll be taking recommendations. For now, this is the name we're going with. But essentially, you want to become the one AI engineer, or you can replace AI with whatever. I'm using AI here because it is obviously the most trendy thing right now when it comes to software. You can replace it with tech. You can replace it with software. You want to essentially become the go-to AI or software guy that your entire city knows, okay? And the reason we do this is because not all client acquisition methods are equal. At the very bottom, you're going to have Upwork, Fiverr, then you're going to get to cold emails, then you're going to get into referrals, partnerships, content. At the very top sits this local celebrity model. This is what allowed me to build what I have to this day. This is what allows me to get a consistent flow of clients with no ads, no cold outbound, and nothing of that sort, strictly from an inbound as well as referrals. This is what allows every other founder inside Code to CEO to get the results that they were able to get. This exact model, okay? Because once again, online, there are pretty much thousands of clones of you. But in your city, the chances of there being more than one of you is very, very low. And I don't mean you just becoming another AI agency or an automation guy doing make.com tutorials or things like that. Not at all. I mean genuinely becoming the local software authority. Anything software related, people should hear your name. It should be synonymous with that, okay? Now, a lot of you might be wondering, but Bigo, local businesses are so bad that they're small, they're not going to give you a lot of money, all these things. This comes from individuals who have actually never really worked with too many local businesses. In fact, local businesses are your perfect first client because there are no IT teams. They're too small to be able to afford a proper IT team. There's usually only 1 or 2 decision makers involved, so you don't need a whole C-suite exec team on the call itself. They are budget ready. Obviously, it's not going to be a $100,000 project, but it could still be a decent sized project. And they're going to trust somebody who is actually local to them. So if I bring 2 engineers to a local business, one lives in their same city, one is in some other country, they're going to choose the one in their same city because they have more trust. And another thing to kind of get you to understand the situation at hand, at least in the United States, only 90% of the businesses in the US use AI, and 33 million small businesses exist. The other 91 in that 100 know they are behind, but they do not know who to call or who to go to, okay? So whenever you walk into a room of money in your city or in your area as the only developer, everybody in that room who has any type of software problem is going to take a look at you and call you whenever push comes to shove. Paul, one of our founders, we'll talk about him in a little bit, quote for quote, being the only developer in the room changed every single conversation I walked into. Think of it as you literally become a celebrity. And we'll get more into this as we move on. But let's talk a little bit about how this was done by Marco, okay? Marco, essentially through connections and networking, he landed a partnership with a fund of funds, asked for 6 figures as well as equity, and they came back with more than he initially asked for. Now he's on to doing very big things. Once again, you'll hear an update about him in a few weeks. But this is a prime example of him running the local celebrity model in his immediate network, in his area, in his city, where a lot of people thought, oh, he's from Eastern Europe, there's going to be no good opportunities, to him landing a contract, to him landing a project with equity and so much just upside that even the people in US working on Jane Street at Quants in New York will have a difficult time matching him. Now, let's talk a little bit about your actual offer, because how are you supposed to get a client when you don't have an offer? So let's talk about that. First thing about getting a client or really getting somebody to give you money is that you need to target a person, not a niche, not an industry. Most people, they make the mistake of targeting an industry or a niche. They hear something like, oh, choose dentists, find a lead list of dentists and send cold emails to dentists asking to automate something. That is not how real life works. That is simply akin to gambling. You need to target a person because an industry never actually signs your check. A person at the end of the line does. The one commonality here that all you need to understand is behind every single decision, behind every single cent that you are going to get, that decision is going to come from another human being. There's a person at the end of that line. This is the quote unquote red pill, right? And there are 4 questions that you need to ask to actually be able to ascertain what your offer even is and who it's for. First and foremost, who has the pain that you're trying to solve? Who cares enough about that pain to actually pay? Meaning, have they tried to solve this before? And if they have, how much money have they spent on it before? If somebody has a pain but they haven't tried to solve it before, it's not painful enough. Who can wire the money? Meaning, who has ownership ability? Who is the primary decision maker? If you're talking to Joe Schmo, who, let's say, has the pain, cares enough about it to pay, but he has no absolute control whether or not he'll be able to pay, he has no decision-making process, you're just wasting your time with him. And where do these individuals actually hang out? Where do these decision makers who have a lot of pain, who care enough about it to pay, and who can wire you the money immediately, where do they hang out? Because if they cannot say yes to any of these questions, right, you are wasting your time with them. And understand one thing. Whenever you are a software engineer, you are going to have a technically leaning mind. So you're going to try to keep things broad. But broad messages are going to get ignored. Specific ones will get answered. So instead of saying, oh, I write Python, or you saying something about a tech stack, or you saying something about technical implementation, which I have seen a lot. A lot of you emailing me have even been asking me, what can I do if I know Python or these particular tech stacks? When you don't understand that, that has nothing to do with what it is that you should be doing. So you never say what you do. This is not a resume. You're not applying for a job. You say what changes, okay? So even if you're going to make somebody's late invoices disappear through Python, you're not going to say that. You're just saying your late invoices disappear. That is the result. That is the expectation. That is what will be changed. You're not going to say what you do, okay? And an example of this, Masa, or one of our founders from Japan, used the same exact thing, same exact concept of actually saying what changes instead of saying what he does, and he ended up getting that exact client. And word for word, he said nothing changed technically. Same exact skills, but it was one new sentence and the contract that he was struggling with got signed, okay? Now, the key behind this is we pitch first, and then we build after we get payment. Forget about the traditional software engineers cycle of we build and then we pitch and try to acquire. No, we have to pitch, get the payment, and then we build. A signed contract is going to be the only validation that counts. Money is the best validation, not a handshake deal, not oh I promise, not oh that sounds good, oh I'll need that. None of these things matter. End of the day, the only concrete validation that you can ever get is if somebody hands you money or puts their name on a contract. And even then, even the contract thing is a little misguided. The biggest thing here is really getting that money upfront in your bank account. So let's talk about where you're actually going to get your first client, because even if you have the offer, okay, but where do I find them? So let's get into that. We're going to talk about the 4 circles. Now, the 4 circles are as follows. Your immediate network, then your city, then we get into cold individuals, then we get into advertisements. For 99.9999% of you watching this, client 1 is going to be in circle 1 or circle 2. I would even want to use 100%, but you know those certain like hand sanitizer companies when they say kills 99.99% of germs? This is just one of those things. I would be very confident to say 100% of your clients are going to come from either from your network, at least your first client, your network or your city. So let's talk about why this is the case. Most people, funnily enough, start at the edge and work backwards. So whenever you're a developer, what you're going to do is you're going to go on Reddit, right? You're going to put it on the Indie Hunter, X, all these things. You're reaching to cold people. These people have never heard about you. They don't trust you. They don't know who you are. And you're putting out what you build. So not only did you not pitch yet, what you built already, you're putting it to a cold audience, or some people will be running ads on it. And they will not get any results. And then they'll wonder, oh, it must suck technically, so I need to make it technically better, but not realizing at the end of the day, the most important thing is to actually start from the inside instead of the outside. You start from the inside and you go out, okay? Client one is most likely already in your phone. They are most likely in your contact list, or at least their LinkedIn connection. What you should do actually is tag every single decision maker that is available in your contacts and in your LinkedIn, and tag every single connector. A connector is somebody who can connect you to a decision maker in terms of just understanding what each one is. So the way you want to go about it is you want to tag every single contact, the owner, the decision maker, or the connector. Sometimes the owner will be the decision maker. Other times the decision maker could be maybe the wife of the owner as well, or the business partner of the owner as well. But you want to dump them all in one sheet. Honestly, you don't have to spend too much time on this nowadays. You can simply use Cloud Code to build the tagger in minutes. Just give it access to your LinkedIn as well as your contacts, and it'll be done with it. And of course, remember, always pitch first. Never build something out until you've pitched and gotten payment for it. And for the owners, you pitch. For the connectors, you get the intro to the owner or the decision maker. Never spend a week on somebody who can't say yes. Honestly, you shouldn't spend more than a few minutes on somebody who cannot give you a proper yes. Now, let's get to the third circle. This is the one that most of you actually have started off with. This is probably the one that most of you have been seeing online as well, because most tutorials online or most advice online talks about cold emails as the first basis for this, which is just completely wrong. If you're going to blast cold emails, at the very least, you need to look into the math. Because while warm circle comes first, a lot of you will talk and say, but Bugo, I don't have a big circle. You don't understand. I have nobody in my network. I'm a complete hermit, let's say, or whatever excuse you're going to give me. So if you're going to go cold, let's at least talk about that cold. A lot of you have received emails saying, I sent 10 emails, 20 emails. I didn't get a result. This thing doesn't work. 10 emails is not a test. It's not even statistically significant. On average, it takes 464 emails for one signed client, meaning when you send out 10 emails, you've only hit 2% of what you need to do to actually even have a chance of landing a client. So you need to completely reset your expectations when it comes to cold outreach for your first client. But keep in mind, your first client is going to come from your warm network anyways, most often than not. But for those of you who have done cold emails before, this is more so you understand the math behind it. On average, one signed client is going to be behind 464 emails. Okay? Now, let's talk about follow-ups. And this is not only with regards to cold emails, this is more so for literally everything else that you have to do. 42% of replies come from a follow-up, and yet 48% of people never send one. The yes is usually going to come from around message 4 to somebody, especially if they're a cold prospect. Most people never send a follow-up. A lot of software engineers have this mindset that they might be annoying somebody, or if you reached out to somebody, maybe they're busy, they'll get to it. And whenever I tell people, have a 1 or 2 business day follow-up schedule, they look at me like I'm crazy. They'll think they're going to spam somebody and annoy them. That you're not ever going to annoy somebody who has a genuine problem. Imagine you go to the doctor's office. God forbid the doctor finds something wrong with your health, and he decides to follow up with you on a week-to-week basis instead of every single day telling you, hey, you have this problem. Like, we need to get this sorted ASAP. How would you like that, right? You wouldn't like that very much. Now, what do we actually say? Let's say we found these people. What do we say? First and foremost, you need to understand when it comes to client acquisition, there is no magic framework to close somebody with a singular message. A lot of individuals that ask me as well via email or in person, they'll ask me, oh, what cold email scripts should I use? Or, oh, what reach out scripts should I use? What framework should I use? What should I say? All these things. It's as if they're looking for a hack. There is no such thing. At the end of the day, this is about human communication. This is about talking to another human being. There is no cheat code here. It's going to specifically, essentially, be determined by the situation at hand and the person you're talking to. However, there are 5 parts behind any type of effective message. So let's talk about those. First and foremost, any type of effective message needs to create an emotional feeling. People buy on emotions. Very rarely do people buy on logic. In fact, most often than not, emotions override logic. You can see this if you study consumer psychology, right? When it comes to women especially, but men, same exact thing as well. Why do certain people want one car over the other? Do you really think they're making a logical decision? No, if everybody made a logical decision, they would take, obviously, the car that's safer, that is more fuel efficient, and those things, because it still gets you from point A to point B. But the reason people want cooler, fancier, faster cars is because of an emotional side of things, right? That is why emotion is so important to create. And the first few lines in your message, or whatever message it is that you're going to send out, instead of looking for a script or instead of looking for what to say, you need to think about the emotions you will create with what you're saying. Never solely read just a script or something like that and assume it's going to work. Always in your own mind, as you read through it, ask yourself, what emotions does this create? What is the reader going to feel as they read first or second sentence? Are they going to take a look at this and think, oh, this is just an automated message sent to me? What are they going to feel? This is why what you want to make them feel, at least initially when you send anything out to anybody, is you want to make them feel like this is for me. This person understands me, okay? Then you want to make them feel, okay, this person sent something for me, they understand me, and they're also legit. So this could be a case study or receipt, something of that sort, just to build a little bit of credibility. Obviously, for your first client, you're not going to have a case study. So there has to be another way that you can give them this feeling of, oh, okay, this person is legit. And of course, the last 2 feelings, okay, this is pretty easy. Like he or she's not introducing extra friction into whatever it is that I'm doing. And I would feel dumb saying no to this exact opportunity. So at the end of the day, what you want to happen is whenever you are sending out any type of message, let alone a message, whenever you're talking to any human being, always in the back of your mind, think of what emotion am I transferring to this person? What are they feeling as I'm talking to them? Put yourself in their shoes. You want them to feel these 5 things. That first and foremost, whatever you're saying is for them, that you understand them, that they know you're legit, that this is pretty easy, there's no friction being introduced, and that they will feel dumb if they say no to the offer that you just made them, okay? If you miss any one of these feelings, okay, it will read like spam. So even if you get the, okay, this is for me, they get my pain, but then, okay, they're not legit, everything's going to come crumbling down. This is why, whether it's warm or cold, whether it's email or in person or over the phone, you need to have all of these 5 feelings at least represented in some shape or form. And I saw your question, Richard. I'll get to it at the very end. Don't worry about it. So when it comes to cold emails, my stance on it, and pretty much every single founder inside Code to CEO that was able to get the results, it's as follows. You have to earn the right to go cold, meaning circles 3 and 4 will come only after you have exhausted your warm circle, meaning your network and your local opportunities. Once those have been exhausted, or once you have become adept enough at whatever it is you're doing, such that you are able to close clients, you are able to deliver properly, then you earn the right to go cold. Until then, do not waste your time with cold outreach. Out of 100 of you trying it, maybe 1 of you will see a certain amount of success with it. I'm not saying you won't be successful. I'm just saying the opportunity cost is way too high not to focus on city as well as immediate network. Okay? Think of cold outreach as like the record label slush pile. Nobody gets signed mailing demos to strangers. Deals are going to happen through somebody who vouches for you. Okay? And speaking of vouching, let's talk a little bit about referrals. Word of mouth is ranked number 1 by 42% of buyers. Cold outreach There's only 2%. Okay? Understand that. There's a night and day difference between these two things. And of course, if you remember the thing back then, 91% of people would be willing to refer you, only 11% of them get asked. So some of you who already have your first client, let's say, all you really need to do is ask for that referral. And when it comes to referrals, it's a special 24-hour referral move. Second, you get the win, you write it, you write a simple message for them for what they need to do, you forward it to them, minimize the friction, and they get you the testimonial or whatever it is referral that you want them to, both in one. Now, we talked about those. We talked about the offer, we talked about the client. Now let's get into a little bit about outbound and inbound. So first, let me define what outbound and inbound means, because essentially these are the only two ways you can ever acquire a client, either through an outbound method or an inbound method. Outbound is whenever you reach out to somebody. Inbound is when somebody reaches out to you. So similarly, most of you found me via inbound, meaning you saw my YouTube video or you saw the newsletter, right? Well, the newsletter would be more of an outbound because I sent it out to you, but the video would be inbound. Nevertheless, outbound, think of it like a faucet. You can build it in weeks and you can start working. And outbound is what you're going to do initially, right? Because you're going to be talking to your network, you're going to be talking to all these people. Inbound, think of it as a river. There's a lot more flow, there's a lot more water, but it takes years to build. Structurally as well, think of a river versus a faucet. Which one is harder to make? You need both, but a faucet comes first, okay? So let's recap everything. Client one is not going to come from sending a bunch of random cold emails to people, okay? Client one is going to come from somebody in your phone. Volume is going to beat any type of excuse that you're going to come up with. Remember the 5 feelings, or it's going to go straight to spam, even IRL. And referrals are going to beat every other form of client acquisition. And perfect example of this is once again Ian. And I'm quoting this. I talked to a friend of an ex-coworker who runs a local business and basically sold him an implementation at an in-person meeting. So it was this first circle, within 3 weeks, got the first paying client, okay? Now, let's talk about your city. So let's say you did get your first client from your network. What happens after the fact? Clients 2 through 10. Forget about website, forget about content, forget about automation for a second. It is all about people, proof, trust. These are the first things we want to prioritize. First things first, understand that 6 people know every single person in your city. The Chamber of Commerce president, the attorneys, the accountants, the realtors, the journalists, and coaches. Within these 6 people, you can pretty much inherit most of their networks, and over 90% of people in your city become accessible to you. To give you an example of how I apply this for my own business, if we work with a personal injury lawyer, I know for a fact they will be connected to body shops, they will be connected to chiropractors, they will be connected to other doctors. All of a sudden, now I'm connected to 3 other type of businesses at the bare minimum. If I'm talking to my accountant, I always give him business cards because I know for a fact every other business owner that's going to go to him to do accounting, even in different industries, is going to be able to know me and of course refer me. And Michael, you sent that at the perfect time. You were shocked to find how many people my CPA knows. Exactly. Accountants, attorneys, journalists, coaches, realtors, chamber presidents, all these individuals know most of the people in your city that you care to know. Okay? Think of it as sort of like a I eat, you eat, or you scratch my back, I scratch yours. 3 to 5 complementary pros who send each other work. You want to be on that list. You work with an accountant, you work with an attorney, you refer other business owners to your accountant refers other businesses to you. You might think this is like a small 1 or 2 people connection, but over the course of a year, if you build this up, you let it compound, this will get you at least 1 or 2 clients a month at the bare minimum at the end of the year. Keep that in mind. Now, when it comes to your Chamber of Commerce, most of you on that list will not be familiar with it. Your chamber most likely is meeting this week. So what you need to do is go and search up the name of your city and Chamber of Commerce. Go and get client 1, most likely, from there. And initially, you can just show up and then decide to join later. But I guarantee you, for 99% of you watching this, you are going to be the only tech person in that room. In fact, if you are under the age of 40, you're probably going to be the only person under the age of 40 in that room. But I guarantee you, even if you're over the age of 40, you're going to be the only software engineer in your Chamber of Commerce. Most individuals are going to be so far from tech that you will be treated like a celebrity, hence the model. When I joined my Chamber of Commerce at the time, I was not only the only person in my 20s, but I was also the only software engineer. Every single business there looked forward to when I would show up to the meetings because they wanted to talk about software and tech. Okay? Now, BNIs, Business Network International, another great thing. They have one seat per profession. So they have chapters in specific cities, and they have one seat per profession, meaning you're going to be the only developer. Chances are yours is most likely empty. These are, once again, weekly referral-focused groups. It's a little bit more expensive than joining a Chamber of Commerce, but I would recommend the BNI for those of you who already have an existing offer or at least your first client. Average members get an extra $62,000 in revenue per year from just joining it. So another thing here, those of you who want to get clients, one of the most logical things to do, right, is go where your clients already gather. If you are targeting lawyers, join the Bar Association and offer to speak there, offer to present. If you know you have an Equinox in your area or you have a nice gym, go where people are going to go to a nice gym, because the business owners, the people making a lot of money, are going to be at the nicer gyms. Okay? Not saying a business owner cannot be at a 24-hour fitness. They can. But more business owners are going to be at the nicer gyms. Okay? If you surround yourself with these type of individuals, these type of environments, the chances of you landing more clients are simply going to get higher. Another thing. Right now, one of the best things that you can do on a local level is to utilize your knowledge as a software engineer. Because what nobody is doing is educating people, educating the masses when it comes to AI and software. So for your Chamber of Commerce or any other type of event in your city, you need to email the organizer and offer to speak for free. A 15-minute talk on even just how AI, let's say, changes the law industry or impacts the law industry. It's going to be so fundamentally valuable for every single person in that room. If you tell me, but Bugo, I'm a software engineer, I know nothing about business. Yeah, but you know everything about software, you know everything about tech. You don't need to know everything about a business to be able to understand and utilize some common sense to know how automation or how certain type of software will be able to help, let's say, a lawyer's onboarding process. That does not take too long to figure out. And since you are a software engineer, you are going to be smarter than the average person. So utilize that strength. And of course, for those of you who want to actually really get into this and really get that client, do not wait for a stage for somebody to give you. You can just build one. Choose a cafe or a library or even a hotel conference room. Set up a Luma page. Have one clear topic you want to talk about. Invite your warm list first. Talk to the connectors. Just try to get as many people as possible. Even for your first meeting that you're going to hold, 10 to 15 people are more than enough. Most venues are going to be free or under $50. And if you want, you can charge for it as well if you need to. But essentially, at all of these things, you talk, 70% of it is going to be value-based, 20% is going to be proof-based, 10% is going to be offer. If you have 30 people show up, 8 conversations are going to lead into 3 clients, bare minimum. Okay? And your first workshop does not have to be perfect. It just needs to happen. I recommend every single software engineer to at least within the next couple months consider hosting a workshop on either the topic of AI or at least AI adoption or on the topic of software, how to utilize software properly. You all are living in one bubble, myself included, back in the day when I didn't know this. We assume everybody knows software, assume everybody knows tech. Most people do not. They need severe education for it. And the reason we talk about so many methods is because every single method feeds into the next one. It is all one big loop. When you go to your chamber, when you go to your BNI, you meet people there, you get clients from there. You're able to get more information and more people for your workshop. From the workshop, you're able to get even more clients. Your authority goes even higher and more people know you now. You're able to get into partnerships. From those partnerships, you learn even more information, you make even more money, you get to speak at more events. And this loop just keeps running and you get bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay? And you've probably already realized this, but client acquisition works when it's part of how you live. Client acquisition is a lifestyle. Another thing people do not talk about enough. Client acquisition is not me just spending 10 minutes a day sending out cold emails. Client acquisition needs to be a part of my life. Where I go to the gym, who I talk to, what places I surround myself with, what places I join. It's less about the particular amount of time that I spent on outreach hours, and it's more about where I spend my time. Keep that in mind, ingrain that and write that down. Client acquisition is a lifestyle, and it is not something that is difficult. It is something that you can very easily incorporate into your own life right now. Now, a great prime example of this is Joey, one of our founders located in California, from Code to CEO. When he got his first client, immediately thereafter, right? When he charged $5,000 plus $150, immediately thereafter, pitched for an event, set up an event, presented at that same exact person's location, and now he's setting up his own. But what that allowed him to do is built him a reputation that led to more referrals, and now he built up a pipeline of people that he can go to close. And from the time when he introduced himself and people understood he was a software engineer, they all wanted him to build something to help them save time. Because once again, maybe in this world of developers online, we are just another developer. But in our own cities, we are celebrities, okay? What we do is very rare. Now, a lot of you will say, okay, but what about posting content and all these things? Isn't content good? Isn't that what everybody talks about? Content is good, but understand content without proof, it is simply pointless. What you want first is to get a couple case studies under your belt, at least one, because that's going to open doors for you, right? And then you can post or do anything else after the fact. But first things first, proof comes first. So let's recap everything. We talked about the faucet, right, versus the river, outbound, inbound, faucet first. We talked about the 6 connectors inside our area, the lawyers, the coach, right, the Chamber of Commerce president, the accountant, all those guys. We then talked about hosting the events ourselves, as well as connecting to the people that can set them up. We talked about having proof first. So now we know where these individuals are. We found them. Now the part that all software engineers dread, the actual sales call or the process of starting the sales cycle. And give me 1 second. I'm going to take a quick water break. But a prime example of this is one of our other founders inside Code to CEO, Paul, pulling this off. And I'm quoting, almost everyone who signed up showed up. Most walked in thinking AI was a chat window. They walked out realizing it can run parts of their entire business. Okay? Hosted the room, invited the people over, talked about it, became an authority, became extremely credible on the matter. Everybody now trusts him to talk about this topic, and they went to him for other work. Okay? So let's talk about the closing cycle and really the sales call, I should say. Basically, the 40 minutes are going to pay for everything that you're going to be doing. First, the biggest lie in tech, the biggest lie that exists in software engineering is that sales is a manipulation tactic. If you genuinely believe that sales is manipulation, you will sabotage every single call you take, every single conversation you have, and it will be for naught. You will subconsciously, consistently mess every single one up. So you need to understand, sales is all about one thing and one thing only, understanding their problem better than they do. And whenever you understand somebody's problem really well, that ingrains in them the belief that you are able to solve that problem as well. Because whenever you go to a doctor because you have a certain symptom, and they're able to immediately identify other symptoms that you're having without having told that doctor what else you were feeling or having, you immediately get the reassurance that, oh wait, the doctor has seen this before. He most likely knows how to solve it. That is why you get that reassurance. So understanding their problem is really all sales is about. People will buy from people they trust, and people will trust those who understand their problem best. Keep that in mind. Now, another thing when it comes to sales is by understanding a very important psychological thing that we human beings have. And it is that losing hurts us far more than winning. So if you compare losing $500 versus winning $500, losing $500 is going to hurt about twice as much as winning that same amount. So your prospect, the person you're trying to sell to, is weighing everything that could go wrong. And what you want to do is set the sell to that. Because every single sale has a hidden cost. Whenever I am asking somebody for $20,000, $100,000, $150,000 for a particular project that we're going to do, that we're going to solve for them, I understand that that amount of money, my proposal, is going to be weighed up against their vacation they want to take, their mortgage they have to pay, their kids' tuition they have to worry about. So what you want to do is make the inaction of not doing that cost more than their vacation, their mortgage, or their kids' tuition. That is all everything is about, okay? Always remember the doctor-patient analogy in the back of your head. A salesperson pitches first, talks 70% of the time, handles objections, and chases the close. Think of like a typical car salesman. Whereas a doctor diagnoses first, listens 70 to 80% of the time, gets asked for the prescription, and then prescribes the next step. Always remember, in the sales process, you should talk at most 20 to 30% of the time, while your prospect should talk 70 to 80% of the time. The more they talk, the more willing they will be to buy from you. And another big caveat here, I should have put this in capital. Record your calls. Every single one of you should record not only your sales calls, but if you're talking to anybody in person, ask for permission to record a conversation utilizing your phone. Just have an MP3 recorder. And if you're going to call on the phone, download an app that you're able to record your phone calls. Record every single one of these calls. If you do not measure and improve what you're saying, you will never know what to do next, okay? Now, one of the most important concepts when it comes to sales, right? Because you need sales to close your client, it's frame, it's positioning. Whoever controls the frame is going to control the sale. If the prospect sets the frame, or in this case, the agenda, let's say, you already lost. So what should happen at every single sales process, whether it's a call, whether it's in person, is that trust and that frame needs to be set up in the first few seconds. Meaning, if you're going to be online, camera, okay, lighting, notice my lighting, grooming, I'm properly groomed, posture, back straight or looking into the camera talking to you, all of these need to be checked. Because if I had very poor lighting here, if I had a bunch of clutter behind me, if everything was a mess, that would lead you to trust me less. Every single detail about you is going to be a micro sale to that person, okay? It also sets the frame. It sets a professional, credible frame. Whenever you don't do that, it's essentially the vendor versus advisor thing. A vendor competes on price, asks your budget, and gets swapped out. But an advisor competes on outcomes, asks about your problems, and they're trusted and kept. You want to be treated like an advisor, okay? Now, the same exact thing we just talked about, this framing skill. It's also what allows you to multiply your price. It's an extreme leverage point, okay? Think of it as like the fulcrum where you're placing it on. That's where your frame falls into. The same exact individual, same exact skill, can either charge $150 an hour, right? And that's going to get you compared to everybody else on Upwork or Fiverr. Or if you simply frame it as this problem costs you $500,000 a year, if we help you solve it, that's an extra $500,000 you get to keep. That gets you hired because you talked about their outcome, right? Their problem. And you framed it that way, even though you're going to use the same exact skills to solve it. Now, how do we actually frame stuff like this? Well, it's all in how we speak. If we work together, my prices, any questions, I think I can help. No. When we get started, the investment is, does this make sense? Here's how we solve this. Once again, how you set up the frame, the more confident you appear. And all of this plays a role because at the end of the day, all the decision lies with that other individual. That individual, that human being is going to give you the yes or the no. There's 7 steps to pulling off everything here in a particular sales cycle. First one is building rapport. Then it's setting the frame. Then it's the discovery. Then it's agitate, present, price, and close. You need to do this in order every single time. If you skip a step, that is what's most likely going to kill your first couple calls. Now, as you get better and better and better at this, you can skip, a couple of steps, or you can do things a little differently. But initially starting off, this is the most beginner-friendly approach, I would say. First and foremost, you want to set the report, okay? 2 to 3 minutes, don't spend any more time, but you want to talk about their space, their wins, their dog, anything. But you have to showcase that you value your time. They have to take you seriously. But you want to build a little bit of a rapport with the prospect. Then you want to set the frame. So this could be something like, I'll ask about your business, goals and challenges. Then I'm going to explain how we can help and how we can get started. Does this sound like a plan? And you want to wait for them to give you a response back. And remember how I said here, how we get started, not if. Do not ever use if, because that is a weak frame. Remember, it's how. Now, this is a very beginner-friendly approach. Another way you can sort of up this even one level, so what I do and what a lot of the founders that are making over $50,000 a month do now, is you can set the frame of, if you have already a pretty good idea of who your clients are and who's the best client and who's not a good client, what you do is you say, by the end of the call, I'm either expecting a yes or a no, not maybes. Okay? Moving on. The yes ladder. Why do we always want to get people to say yes? Because the more yeses people say, the higher the likelihood that it's going to lead to the next yes. Sounds like a plan? Yes. Makes sense? Yes. Ready to start? Yes. Move on. Discovery. You want to ask about 5 questions. Oh, what's working thus far? What's the biggest challenge? How long have you tried solving this? What have you tried to solve this? And what if nothing changes? The sales is most often than not won or lost in this specific phase. It's also going to be the longest phase. And you want to mirror people's words back to them. Never accept their first answer. So if somebody says, oh, we need more leads. Okay, why do you need more leads? Well, because revenue's been flat all year long. Okay, why has it been flat? You go keep digging down, because the real problem actually lives there. Then you want to agitate. You want to do the math out loud. So if they say, oh, this is costing us 6 months, about 1,000 team hours, you want to translate that to $150,000 gone. What could you have done with that $150,000? Taking that vacation with your family, right? Paid off the college tuition, paid off the mortgage, all these things. You want to agitate that pain so they understand the stakes at hand. Then you want to summarize the pain in their exact words. It actually proves that you listen to them and you're not just waiting for your turn to speak. And almost nobody does this, by the way. And then you want to present. If they didn't mention it, do not pitch it. So if you're going to be presenting some type of a solution to them, if they didn't ask about a dashboard, about other integrations, about your tech stack, don't mention it. Only ask and talk about the problem that they named. Nothing extra. You then want to anchor the price. So this is what comes down to actually being able to charge higher. For those of you struggling with pricing, pay careful attention to this. Anchoring the price essentially means setting up a frame where you are able to charge a high enough price through what's called an anchor. So let me give you an example of this. Let's say I am on a call right now trying to sell to somebody. And usually I have a setup fee associated with whatever it is that I'm doing, because I have to pay the people that work underneath me, right? That my employees essentially. So what I'll do is I can tell them, look, if you want to make a decision right now on this call, I can waive the $25,000 setup fee for you. It will just be $15,000 a month thereafter. So now what you've done is you've anchored the price. Usually it's 25K plus 15,000. Now it's just 15,000 if they get to make a decision right now. You never want to fake urgency, because people can smell it. You want to have an actual reason for doing it. This is just another way to anchor it. And then it's called the silence protocol. This is the one that most software engineers also mess up on. Whenever you state the price, you absolutely shut up, zip it. You don't talk. The first person to speak is going to lose. Okay? Then we go for the close. You immediately ask for the email or payment method. You never leave the call without asking them to close, no matter how well or how bad it went. You always try to go for the close. Remember, discovery is going to take the most minutes. That's where the sale is going to happen. And objections are going to be buying signals. It's a request for more information. If they wanted to be out or if they didn't care enough, they wouldn't be on that call in the first place. So don't treat an objection with hostility. What you want to do is acknowledge it, ask a question, reframe it, and then reclose them on that exact objection. And based on our pretty much actual data that we've seen firsthand from our own founders, as well as my own calls as well for the business, the number one objection really is about price, and then it's about a spouse or a business partner making a decision, and then it's about timing. But every single one of them is preventable inside the call itself. If they say it's too expensive, run the value math, offer installments, never discount your full price. If they talk about a spouse, you need to have that before the call. if you need to book a second call such that they have their spouse or their business partner there. If they say, I'll think about it, you want to say, okay, what do you want to think about specifically? I'm here right now. I can answer your questions. Now, to kind of recap the emotional journey that we have to take people on for their sales. We go from building rapport, so the comfort. We go from discovery, which is the vulnerability phase. We go to agitation, which is building urgency. We go to presenting the solution, which is hope. We go to price, which is the tension. And then we have the silence, which is the decision. Okay? Perfect example of this, Chris, one of our other founders inside Code to CEO, personified this, says word for word, I was prepped to position myself as a trusted advisor, not a stereotypical salesman. It offset having no portfolio at all. Close the client with no other clients whatsoever. Okay? Now, let's get into, once you've actually closed your client, what do you do then? Because it's not just about closing a client, it's also about keeping a client. And AI is going to be your unfair advantage here. One developer, you can have a full business, no payroll. You can do everything with AI. Yesterday, to do everything we're talking about here, you maybe needed more than one person, potentially up to, let's say, 10 people. Today, you only really need yourself. You sell the outcome, AI is going to help you ship that specific outcome, okay? And AI is the core, but AI is not the core because you're going to own the core. Whenever you set AI to be the core of whatever it is you do, it's going to break under load, you're not going to be able to debug it, and it's going to collapse with real users. Whenever you own the core, it's going to be tested and debuggable, it's going to survive real users, and AI is going to give you that edge that you need. Now, I'll talk a little bit about my AI setup. Keep in mind, I am an ambassador for Claude in Los Angeles for startups, small businesses, as well as developers. Keep in mind, this is a volunteer position, not like an Anthropic employee. But I do have a lot of familiarity with Claude and Anthropic products, meaning I have pretty robust systems in place. The way I have my stuff set up, I'll talk a little bit about what you should do for yourself as well, is first and foremost, all of your calls that are being recorded, have them automatically be transcribed and the summary sent out, right? There's existing tools that already do this, but for your own self as well, have the calls transcribed and essentially analyzed to see where you could have done something better or where something went wrong. Utilize those calls to create all the documents you need. So be it the actual contract that you can assign, whether it's going to be the invoice that you're going to send out, have the actual whatever setup it is you're also going to do to help you with whatever outreach you're going to do, all these things. So generally, how you want to set up AI is to have more hands on deck. Don't think of it as a replacement for one specific thing. Treat it like a team. Similarly, you don't let your team do things on their own. You have to manage a team, right? You have to stand over them, watch over them to make sure everybody's doing their work properly. And you need to have some level of a checking thing where you are checking if what your team is doing is good at the end of the day. So never let AI grade its own work. It's not going to work. Let AI architect it, but you need to make the calls that AI cannot undo. And this isn't just about the coding aspect, by the way. This isn't just about the fulfillment aspect. It's about the whole company as a whole. Your outreach, your proposals, your OPS, the content you're going to do. Everything should revolve around having AI help you with it. So let's do a little bit of a recap for session 7. You're pretty much the whole team now. You don't need an employee, at least until I would say easily up to $100,000 a month. You don't need an employee. Boarding verticals do pay you, and you want to own the core. AI is going to handle the edge cases, and AI is going to help you run the business. Okay? And a perfect example of this is actually one of our other cloud community ambassadors, one of the first 60 in the world, Dom from the Sydney location. He turned this exact thing into actually trainings. So he started holding first cloud and permitting training, just confirmed, 3-hour workshop for a blue-collar construction recruiter. And he charged $2,600 for the first one, went on to make multiple 5 figures from doing this exact thing later on. But he does everything with AI as well. He has a significant amount of actual fulfillment coming from the AI perspective. Now, let's get into how we charge, okay? And what you need to do first and foremost is stop thinking in hourly, and you want to start thinking in outcomes. If a project saves somebody $500,000, $500,000, and it takes you a week to do, you're not going to charge for that week because that's going to leave $499,000 on the table at an hourly rate. What you need to do is charge by value because your fee is a fraction of the value that you create. If you, let's say, generate an annual value of $30,000, you can easily charge a $3,000 setup fee. that is priced by value, not by hour. Always remember that. What you want to do is treat your specific service that you're providing for people like a lottery ticket with a known outcome. If I told you, you buy this lottery ticket that's guaranteed to pay you out $1 billion, how much money would you spend on it? Most of you, wouldn't you spend $999,999,999? Maybe not that much because you don't want to go through the extra trouble, but you would at least spend 990 million for it, wouldn't you? Because that's going to pocket about 10 million there. Same exact thing, price by the value. There's 3 steps to this, okay? The way you want to go about proving the value is you want to stay in that advisor role. Oftentimes, most of you will do a discovery call. That discovery call is going to lead to a potential paid pilot or a paid project. And then from that paid project, it's going to get into a retainer. But before you package all this, you're going to need proof, okay? 2 to 3 completed projects, or at least 1 case study with actual numbers backing it up. And once you have those, you can now package what's already actually validated. Whenever you package something, right, you are able to then productize it later on. So this is when we can get into SaaS territory. But until then, whenever it comes into actually selling and charging, always remember, you never want to lower your price unless there's a very good reason for it. You want to instead split payments, offer payment plan, potentially reduce scope, never discount the price, reduce scope, offer a pilot, but don't ever discount, because that means you are not charging by value. So a little bit of a recap, price it like an advisor, kill that hourly rate, forget the hourly, charging by hourly, earn proof before packaging anything and committing to something, and then we want to restructure the deal, never discount it. Perfect example of this, Damir, right? He, as I quote, I stopped selling features, I started solving problems. That's when I started getting yeses, landed a mid-5-figure engagement, implementing a call center about $50,000 worth for a construction company. And he followed this exactly to a T. Showed up as the advisor, did not charge hourly, charged based on actually the value he was going to create, and restructured the deal, did not discount it, set it up on a payment plan. Now, let's talk about what this means for you, how you right now can do this exact same thing within the next 90 days. Exactly what to do in order starting tomorrow on Monday. Year 1, think of it that it's going to be a little bit of a grind. But by year 3, it's going to run without you. Let me say this right now so you all understand. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. You're not going to become a millionaire in 1 month. I understand you saw John, $4.5 million exit. He did that in about 9 months. What you don't see is the amount of work that went into it behind the scenes. This is not going to be a lottery ticket. However, it is going to be a very, very good opportunity, better than any other opportunity that pretty much exists nowadays. If you give yourself 1 to 3 years, you will understand that that is all you really need to get to the financial time and location freedom that you so desire, more so than the previous 10 to 20 years of employment has given you, okay? Year 1 is largely going to be built around building trust and credibility. Year 2 is going to be about expanding our circle. Year 3 is going to be pretty much running everything on autopilot. And anybody telling you that you're going to be able to get these results by month 2 is simply being dishonest, okay? Year 1 is all about priming the pump. You can very easily, in about 6 months, most definitely replace your entire 9-to-5 income. But to get to the point of making millions of dollars, that's going to come by the end of year 1, beginning of year 2. I would say for most individuals around year 3. But you want to pour stuff in before anything comes out. And once again, that is that early grind that we're talking about. So the way you start is as follows. First and foremost, you write the warm list and find your offer. Who you can help, who you know, where you live, what area you're in, and what your experiences are, right? The unique advantages that I so often talk about. This is your circle 1. Then you want to start the actual conversations with these individuals. And you don't want to just pitch them immediately. You want to be curious about their business. You want to understand the pain points. Then you want to join your chamber or BNI seat. I recommend joining a chamber of commerce first and then a BNI, but just walk into a room where you're going to be the only developer and you're going to be the only trusted advisor there. Then you're going to land your first project from these 3 things already. And even though it's going to be small, that is completely fine. The point is to just start right now, but never do anything for free. Always charge for it, okay? You want to document that result because 1 case study is going to be worth 100 hours of cold outreach for you. And you're going to officially close that client. So you're going to have proof, a number, and the confidence and the belief to now understand that you can do this on your own. Then you get into hosting your first room, utilizing that same exact result that you got. It can be about that particular topic, it can be something else, but your warm list is invited as well as your Chamber of Commerce people. And you want to ask for referrals every single time. Deliver, ask, deliver again. And if you do this by month 6, the system is going to run pretty much almost entirely on its own. And just 30 minutes a day minimum of living this lifestyle, clients are going to begin coming to you by the end of month 6. We have had founders actually within 3 or 4 months, but they did spend about 4 to 6 hours a day who built this system, and they were getting inbound already pretty much 2 to 3 months in. So this is how powerful it actually is. And to kind of see the full thing, you start with a warm list, you get into the conversations, you join your chamber and BNI, you get your first project, you document it, close it out completely, host the events, ask for referrals, rinse and repeat. And you rinse and repeat until you get to a point where you are now the local celebrity. What does that look like? Like I said, you can take a look at a lot of the founders we just talked about, but even in myself right now, I don't have to do any manual outreach at all. Every single day, I have people that approach essentially my business that ask me for projects, and they are begging to work with me. And there are really 3 ways that software engineers tend to blow this entire thing up. Number 1, they tend to split their focus. They want to do too many things at the same time. Not a good idea. Focus on one thing at one time. Next, they want to productize too early. They think that service businesses or like providing a service for businesses is just low tier. It's not what a software engineer to do. They want to jump straight into a SaaS. They want to straight productize it. But understand, every single SaaS right now even this SaaS right now that we're on, this webinar jam thing, every single good software actually started as a service first. Netflix, right? Amazon, every single big software started as a service first. That's exactly what you're doing too. Do not productize too early until you have enough validation. And of course, skipping stages. Do not skip stages. Understand, year 1 is going to be a little bit of a grind. That's normal. In reality, it's not going to take you a full year. I'm just using year 1 because that's sort of like what you can have in terms of worst expectations. But 4 to 6 hours a day, within about 2 to 3 months, it's really going to be the first grind. And then it's going to get much easier. In 1 year, you will make more progress in this than you would have made in your last 15 years of your 9-to-5 career. And that is a guarantee. You can ask any of the founders inside Code to CEO. They've made more progress in 1 year than they did in their, let's say, 10 or 20 years of 9-to-5 experience. You want to run the sprint in order, as we just talked about. And remember, case study always beats cold outreach. Now, proof that everything we just talked about worked. John, one of our founders, and I quote, "Never in a million years would I think that Zeus would be possible. 3 months since I joined and we just crossed $50,000 a month. He went on after about a year to get a $4.5 million acquisition offer for his company that he built. Everything we talked about here, if you actually put it and you do it, you implement it, you will get results." Okay? Now, everything we talked about, the methods are easy. I mean, they don't sound so difficult, right? You just have to do the work. That's the hard part here. You might think, I'm not a salesperson. That's good. Clients want an advisor. They don't want a car salesman, okay? People are going to buy from who they trust, and they trust who they can see. If you're worried you're going to sound like a guru, well, you don't have to, because proof and honesty are going to kill that fear for you. And what you want to do is run client acquisition like a CI/CD pipeline. Remember, your inputs and your process are going to lead to your clients. Inputs, outputs. If you have consistent inputs, clear logic, you're going to have a predictable output. And your mood here does not matter, okay? So the hard part isn't actually the method. The method, as you just found out, is pretty simple. It's doing it daily. Every single founder who crossed that $50,000 a month says the same exact word: consistency. Remember, you're advising, not selling. Trust comes from being seen, and consistency is going to win. Perfect example of this, Marco, okay? And I quote, "Man, did I struggle here. The enemy truly is me. Intense resistance, procrastination, avoiding the real questions. I figured out such a big blocker in my life. The blocker was never the code. It was all internal. It was actually doing the work. And then went on to achieve what he achieved." Okay? So already, I just gave you everything you need. The 1 systems. So you learned all the frameworks. You talked about the myths, the model, the offer, the 4 circles, the 5 feelings, the doctor framework, the 7-step call, the silence protocol, the AI team for fulfillment, and your 90 days as well as the inner game. All of it you now have. So before the weekend ends, you need to do 3 specific things. Audit your contacts by Friday, write your I help X fix Y line, and send it to at least 20 people by Friday. That's how you can get started and set the ball rolling. And pretty much what your trajectory is going to look like from here is you're going to be grinding for a little bit, and then you're going to start gaining some traction, and then you're going to get into the compound growth phase. By the end of year 3, all of you will be in a situation that you did not even dream of that it would be possible.